Welcome Lund loyalists to John Lund Unleashed. Those watching on YouTube, on the John Lund Unleashed and Bay Area Sports Collective channels. Viewers on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and Lundos listening to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. John Lund Unleashed, brought to you by 𝐟𝐸𝐵L Sports Medicine. Got pain? Check out our revolutionary stem cell treatments. And guys, if low T is bringing you down, 𝐟𝐸𝐵L Sports Medicine can put you back in the game. Now all juiced up and ready to go, here's John.
The biggest surprise is it's 7:56 and we're going. I've got to be out of here by 9 o'clock Pacific time today because I have some issues to deal with. So we're jumping early. So you never know. That's why you have to have your alerts on. It's John Lund Unleashed. Thanks for joining us, Bay Area Sports Collective and John Lund Unleashed. Please make sure you are subscribed to have those alerts on. Then you know when we go early or late. And please hit that like button as well so that the algorithm can go, hey, not half bad, y'all. Good morning. We normally go 8-ish to whenever, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. on Saturdays we go on the show. We got a ton to get to today, which is another reason I jumped in here early. We'll do the roll call in just a second, but good morning, good morning, good morning. It is John Lund Unleashed right here on YouTube. Again, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have those alerts on. Hit the like button. Thanks for watching. Also on the Bay Area Sports Collective, please make sure that you are subscribe there. That's my show, John Lund Unleashed. Tom Tolbert, of course, the former Warrior, and my cohort on KNBR, Rod Brooks and Quality Hang, as well as Polymax Particles, and they'll be on later today as well, and with Creative Tony. So I'm sure we'll be talking all about the Warriors, all of us today, as I point out in the show cover today, Fixing the Warriors, episode 141. Also, you see the Niners schedule down there. We'll hit that up as well, plus Jordan Hicks. Do I have to ask again? Do I really have to ask again that he's out of the rotation with a 6.55 ERA and you're actually trying to contend in the National League West? I shouldn't have to worry about that, but apparently I do. So we'll get into all those conversations today as you look at the chalkboard here. Got stuff from Steve Kerr, the guys from TNT Debate. If you missed the quick schedule release show that I did yesterday before I had to pick up 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐢 from the airport, we'll recreate that for you, and you can make fun of me for my win-loss. All I expect from you is if you would put your win-loss total so that we can track that as well. I shouldn't be the only jackass that throws my stuff out there. So throw yours out as well so that we can all have fun later on in the season when it all blows up in our face. So we shall see. So I'll get out to the roll call in just a second. If you're new around here, again, thank you for watching on any platform, but we'd love it if you're over here on YouTube. At John Lund Radio on X. Good morning to everyone over on X, Twitch. People are watching there too. LinkedIn, Facebook, whether it's my personal page, which you can join, John Lund, you can request, and I'll get right back to you, or John Lund Unleashed as well. So you can do either on Facebook. So good morning, good morning, good morning. And as I said, dominating today will be fixing the Warriors. Warriors out. We'll get into that conversation. Off-season moves. We're already there. We'll just take a quick gander on some things there, and then we have an entire offseason to deal with that. JK is gone. There's no question in my mind. There was another story out again that, he's hogging the ball and this and that. Look, it's just not a fit. I'll explain. 49ers schedule, like I said, I did a quick schedule release show just after 5 o'clock Pacific time yesterday, but we'll get more into that. Plus, not only will we hit the 49ers, but the Sunday night and the Monday night schedule, I don't know, Thursdays or whatever, but the Sunday and Mondays are the big ones, so we'll go through those schedules as well. What Vegas says, and it's a bit of a surprise, when it comes to the 49ers, I certainly thought it would be under this number, and so it's definitely a quandary, and that's what Vegas does. They try to make you think. HICKS to the pen, I've been saying that since before the season even started. Do I want to see him throwing 97, 98, or do I want to see him throwing 102 out of the pen? I think it's stupid that he's been starting this long, and I don't know why, and I know Bob likes to stay with his veterans, which is Lamont Wade Jr., and HICKS is a veteran, and I said this from the get-go. I didn't like the 4-44. I thought he was a bullpen arm. He was 5 and fly a lot last year. Then he got tired in the second half of the year. I get it, taking the chance on the big arm, but he's a reliever, and he is better as a reliever. He's better as a short inning guy where he can just let it go. But we'll get into that. Caboose Pistol, Sweet Clean One, and random things happen throughout the show. If you're new around here, it's not easy to throw me off track, but I try to get back on track as quickly as we possibly can. Baba Booey is here this morning. Fiend, good morning. Pods was really good last night. You are 100% right. Let's see. What I want to do is, because good morning, Skills, is that Larry and I, he lets people in via video, and I think that's even cooler than just calling in. I think it's really cool to pop somebody up on the screen. So I'm going to talk to Larry. I know how I can do it, but I don't want it to become a circus, so I got to figure out how I'm going to do that exactly. That's a good idea, though. Good morning, Skills. It is great to see you. Let's see. Did we have any thoughts on this team? Let me see right here. I'll just pop my many thoughts on this team, but this is I'll do my own show later. Where's your show, man? I want to watch your show. I want to switch places with you. That's amazing. That's great, man. Believe me, you can pop in on my show and say whatever you want. You know how that works around here, especially you. You're the man. And I still owe you. Is there a dream in here anywhere? No. Okay. Just want to make sure. Wonder if George would have a Dan's bar. Oh, dude, nice call on Dan's in Walnut Creek. God, how many times have I been in there, like last call, like stumbling around. Now, his plane was late last night. It was like 2.5 hours late. And then, of course, in true Bay Area fashion, to welcome him home, literally right out of the airport. I'm not complaining, but literally I'm used to it. We all are. But right out of the airport at about 10:30 last night, they decided, you know what would be really fun for these people getting off an airplane is if we cut this lane from 4 to 1 and then not do any construction work. So they cut it from 4 lanes to 1. And I know probably at midnight or whatever they were going to start work, but they hadn't. And so they had to make sure that they had it down to 1. So what is normally at that time of the night, probably a 30 to 35-minute commute to home turned into about a 70-minute commute after his plane had already been delayed 2.5 hours. Yeah, that was a whole lot of fun. But anyway, what's going on? No credit for being early today. That's right. Enrique, good to see you. There's our favorite East Coast Red and Gold. Make sure you are subscribed. Great podcast. Great YouTube channel. And we're going to be going over the Niners schedule here in the not too distant future. So good morning to everyone. Joy is here this morning as well. AJ Cruz, it is great to see you. All right, let's get things going today. There is a ton of things going. There's a lot of discussion and debate. Remember, you do not have to agree with me. That's part of the greatness. If you are watching the show later on, welcome to all of those who I have not acknowledged and said good morning to. But it is great to have everybody in the building, in the show, on the show today. And again, make sure you subscribe, like, and keep those alerts on, because even though I'm going to be short today because of prior engagements, I will definitely be back. And if there's new stuff, we've got to get to those kind of things. So let's start out with the Warriors. I will post the box score, but I'll be completely honest with you. Once the season is over, I don't really care what happened last night. I know why it happened. You know why it happened, but we'll bring it up real quick. Let's give credit where credit is due. Pod stepped up. It was just too late. I wish we'd have done this when the series was a series, but he goes 11-19 for 628 points. I tell you this all the time, and it's not that I don't want to give Pods credit, but I think of things differently. When I see someone do or have a game like this, he did this in Houston, had one game where he scored 26, this game where he scored 28. It's not that Podziemski's not a talented player. He is, and it's not that I'm not going to give him credit for having a great game last night, because he did, especially in an elimination game, which is difficult to do. And when you're outmanned as they were. But what it drives you crazy, especially if I was a coach, I tell you this all the time, I want consistency. I don't want a night where you go 3 for 14 pods and then a night where you go 11 for 19, 4, 6, and you score 28, especially kind of when the pressure's off and you're down 3-1. Consistency. So that was the thing. That's the last thing that people are going to see from Podziemski. Oh, you can't trade him. Did you see what he did in that last game against the Timberwolves? Yeah, and I also saw what he did for the majority of the series and the majority of the playoffs. I would not be opposed to trading Brandon Podziemski. I know what he does. I know he draws fouls. I know he's a scrappy defender. I know that, all these different things. But I do know this through his first couple of years, he's wildly inconsistent with his shot. And you know what? I like trading guys when their stock is high. Look at players like Stocks, and his stock right now is high. If I can get something to help this team, because they have clearly one direction, Jimmy Butler's older, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, they're going to go for it next year. And I'm going to play a cut from Steve Kerr here in a minute. And I don't know that I've ever disagreed with something that Steve Kerr said more. I know he's got to say it because of his team, but it's the end of the season. You can kind of be honest if you want to be. But give Podziemski credit, but it was a little bit too late, and it drives me crazy. Inconsistency drives me crazy as a fan and as a media member. And I just want to see consistency. I tell you this all the time. Who's in the bank and who do I have to question? I have to question Pods. I don't know how he's going to or how his shot's going to go from one night to the next. And that's maddening for fans, for media, for everybody, I'm sure for him. But the shot was going down, so I got to give him credit. But where others will point and say that's what he can be, I'll say I saw it once. Why can't I see it more? And we just haven't seen it enough in the 2 years. I like him. He's scrappy. He's tough. He's a high-end role player. And he could be a good player on a team that could win a high amount of games and go deep into the playoffs. as long as he's got 3 or 4 guys ahead of him. He's not a 1, a 2, a 3, and I don't mean that positionally. I mean Batman, Robin, and I don't know, Alfred. I mean, there's a 1, which is Steph. There's a 2 that is Jimmy. There's a 3 that's Draymond. He's never going to be one of those players. He's going to be a nice role player. He's going to have a nice role player career, but that's not untouchable in my book. And so if somebody wanted pods and I could get a nice player, a veteran player that can help me win now in return, I would do it in a heartbeat, because inconsistency drives me crazy. But he had a great game last night. Jonathan Kuminga, I believe that's going to be his final game in a Warriors uniform. Played 32 minutes, 11 of 23, 26 points, high volume for Kuminga. A lot of times, and I like Jonathan, and I think that the way the Warriors have abused him is malpractice. But he's had a hand in a lot of this too, and you'll see the stories and hear the stories and read the stories when he's gone. They're not going to say anything negative about him now. I've told you about it. He's very difficult to coach. He can be egotistical at times. He can value himself, all those different things. Having said that, there's no way he should have been chained to the bench like he was in the series against Houston and before Steph Curry got hurt. It's just ridiculous, and they should have found a way. So anyway, we'll get into the offseason itself. Jimmy Butler only getting 11 shots in 42 minutes. It was just difficult on Jimmy. Once Steph Curry left, then the focus defensively for Minnesota was on Jimmy Butler. And that's just not who he is at this point. Plus, Jaden McDaniels and the type of length and athleticism that Minnesota threw on Jimmy, that's just not Jimmy's game. A couple of things jumped out, and then we'll get into more of the offseason talk. First of all, you see the points in the paint down there right here? That's a problem, and that's why I'm going to disagree with something Steve Kerr said right there. 72 points in the paint on 36 of 46 shooting. You think that's a problem? You think you're going to trade Jonathan Kuminga to get some of that size? Because they are. And I talk about it every single day, so I sound like a broken record. But 72 points in the paint on 36 of 46 is unbelievable and unacceptable, to be completely honest. Second chance points, wild. 27-2 for the Warriors. 27-2 for the Warriors on second chance points after they had gotten beaten, especially in the Houston series and this series, in a number of games that way. But there you go. Second chance points, 27-2. But again, right there, 72 paint points on 36 of 46. They just attacked the Warriors because they don't have any size. I mean, that's just what it's going to be, and that's what they're going to do in the offseason. They're going to fix that. So that's what happened last night. Pods, Kuminga's probably played his last game. They lose last night. And, you know, the other thing is I'm watching the game last night, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this. This whole myth of championship DNA. The Timberwolves are just better. They're more athletic. They have more size. You know, whether Steph plays in this, I'm going to play something from TNT and the guys who debated this last night. This is a bad matchup for the Warriors. They didn't have anybody to answer Anthony Edwards, and that wouldn't have changed with Steph Curry. They didn't have anybody to answer Julius Randle, and that wouldn't have changed without Steph Curry. I mean, the offense would have been different. He opens up the offense more than any other individual player in the league because you have to pay so much attention to him, and the court tilts in his way, and it opens up things for everybody else. So there's no doubt that offensively things would have changed, but defensively they couldn't stop the Timberwolves the entire series. You know, Anthony Edwards pretty much did what he wanted. Julius Randle, I think, was the MVP of the series, despite the fact that Edwards was so good. He just dominated, absolutely dominated. And the way that they usually take advantage of Rudy Gobert, they did not. Now, again, some of that has to do with Steph, but Minnesota is clearly more talented, and their arrow is going up. And even though they had a 6 in front of them as far as where they were ranked from a seeding standpoint, they've played great basketball really since the beginning of the year, one of the best teams in the league, and they were just better than the Warriors, and they would have been better than the Warriors even with Steph Curry. I don't even hesitate at all to say that, just because it was just a bad matchup in its size. And like I said, in the offseason, and we can move from Warriors out to offseason moves, Jonathan Kuminga is going to be gone. He just doesn't fit. And I don't say this that he wouldn't fit my team and I couldn't find a way, because I think the Warriors should have and could have. But what it is you ever had a boss, and for whatever reason, you just can't really put your finger on it from a chemistry standpoint. It just doesn't work. I've had that happen in my career. I was in Dallas, and I was running and owned and operated ESPN radio station, and I had a boss there. And no matter what I did, I ran the station and did Cowboys pre, half, and post, and hosted shows. And no matter what I did, this guy and I just could not get on the same page. There was a guy who ran the station before me who was very analytically driven and killed lots of trees and did lots of booklets and things like that. And that just wasn't me. I was on the front lines, and I like to coach, and I like to, work with shows. And he was just different. Him and I just were different. Well, he liked the other guy's style, and that was never going to be me. So we just never got on the same page. And I worked there a short period of time, not because it wasn't successful. It was successful. It was just, I didn't like going to work every day. And the whole reason I was in this business was to enjoy myself, right? To work my ass off, but also to enjoy myself. And I just didn't like it. I didn't like him. He didn't like me. And that's kind of what's going on with Jonathan Kuminga. They'll say things when he's gone. They won't say things while he's here. But they've just, chemistry-wise, it just hasn't worked with Steve Kerr. It hasn't worked with the organization. There's things behind the scenes that are going on, and the way his personality is, and all these kind of things. Like yesterday, it comes out that, they were pissed at him because he was pounding the ball when Steph Curry. Like, look, I love Steph Curry. Greatest Warrior of all time, one of the greatest players of all time. And I mean, it's just, he's great. He's on the court, off the court. He's everything you'd want in a superstar. But, Jonathan Kuminga has a certain style that he plays, and to get pissed off because maybe he didn't move the ball to Steph Curry a few times, whatever. Some within the organization are irked at Jonathan Kuminga. Well, you won't have to worry about it much longer because 72 points in the paint, the fact that they just, Houston, they got lucky to win that series in 7. This series, they were badly outmanned from a size perspective. And they're going to try to fix that in the offseason. Now, whether that's Miles Turner, who would be, I think, the ultimate goal, but I don't see why he would leave Indiana. He's a free agent at the end of the year, but why would you leave Indiana? The Warriors don't have salary cap space, so he'd want to have to come here. And I told you this yesterday, the players are more in control than they've ever been in professional sports, especially in the NBA. If somebody wants to go somewhere, generally speaking, they can get there. And the organization will help them, and I know they shouldn't do that, but they figure the guy doesn't want to be here, so we'll do our best to get what we can in return, and we'll just see what happens. I don't see Miles Turner doing that, but I could be wrong. I don't know him. Guys like Bobby Portis, Naz Reid, we just saw in the Minnesota series. He's a free agent. How big of a difference would he make? He's not a defender, but he is a stretch on the offensive end. So there's a number of guys. I think Lauri Markkanen, they'll probably restoke those talks. He signed a big contract in the offseason. I don't know if I'm the Warriors if I want to take that on because, like I said, on one end of the floor, he's fairly soft. Not a great rebounder for his size, certainly not a great defender, but he's a stretch. He can shoot it as a 7-footer from the outside, and that could help the Warriors. But size-wise, is he going to mix it up down low with guys like Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert and guys like that? Probably not. So I don't know how big is he going to cover Jokic? No. So, look, it's a difficult thing they have to do. And then as far as Giannis is concerned, that's everybody's, great catch is Giannis, unless Giannis wants to come here, and maybe he does. Maybe he loves Steph that much, and all the different reports that are heard and talked about is, he loves Steph and Steph loves him, and they've always wanted to play together. Maybe that's the case, and Giannis forces his way to the Warriors because just on the surface, and again, it's less and less about this, but on the surface, San Antonio with the 2nd and the 14th pick and all their young players, as long as they can get a salary to match, and have a big 3 of, Victor, Giannis, and De'Aaron Fox, plus all the, a lot of their young players. That makes a lot more sense. Milwaukee gets the 2nd pick of the draft and, whatever else from San Antonio, and Greg Popovich is still in the front office. So that makes sense. Houston certainly makes sense. And just as a general thought, with Dallas winning the lottery, and if Cooper Flagg's as good as he's supposed to be with Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving, they might be better and probably are better than the Warriors. San Antonio, I think they're going to make a big move either for Durant or Giannis. They'll be better than the Warriors. Houston, another year seasoned, they'll be better than the Warriors, and I expect them to make a big move. Oklahoma City is already better than the Warriors. That's 4 teams. Denver, we'll see what they do in the offseason. They certainly need to. They could be better than the Warriors and were. So the Western Conference isn't getting worse. It's getting better, and the Warriors are getting older. But they're already committed to doing what they're going to do, which is stay in the luxury tax because they traded for Jimmy. So Jimmy Butler finishes this contract. This wasn't part of the extension this year. That's the next 2 years after this. So Jimmy Butler is going to be here for the next 2 years, which means they're going to go for it over the next 2 years. Steph's going to be 38 next season. Draymond's going to be 36. Jimmy Butler's going to be 36. They need an infusion of talent, of youth, of size, of athleticism. How do they do that? I think that Kuminga is number 1 on the list. I think Podziemski would be a guy that I would move. Look at that final game he had. He's a nice player, and he's a high-end role player, and I know the Warriors love him in his makeup and all those kind of things. I'm not as enamored, and if I can get a quality player who can help Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond, then I would do that. They've got to get Draymond off the 5. He's not a 5. He got tired in this series. That's great. You can say that you're the defensive player of the year, and that's fine. Played more under control this year. I think since Jimmy, I think you got some influence from Jimmy in that way. You can run white hot and still simmer and stay under control. Still always going to need to work on that, but he's a power forward. He's not a 5, especially in the Western Conference where there's so much size. So they're going to add size. They're going to use Kuminga to get it. Maybe they use Podziemski to get it, whatever the case may be. And that's the way it's going to go for the Warriors. And I just think it's going to be tough. I think this might have been their last best chance before the injury to Steph Curry. I don't know. Like I said, I still don't think they win this series against Minnesota, but the way that they were playing earlier, you don't want to peak too early, and that's kind of what the Warriors did. And then you hit the injuries and guys who stepped up. Like Moses Moody played in the fourth quarter, and he was mentioned in the postgame like, oh, it's great that Moses ended this way. They needed him earlier. He gets no credit in my book. He played in the fourth quarter when the game was a blowout. Congratulations that he hit shots when there was no pressure on. I don't know, maybe he can be part of a package. I like Moses Moody, but he didn't show up in the playoffs, and that's a bummer for the Warriors. So give me your thoughts on not only the game last night, the Warriors season. When you're this good, here's the problem, and I'll play Steve Kerr talking about this too. When you still have Steph Curry, when you still have Steve Kerr, when you have Draymond Green, when you're still these Warriors, I'm just speaking from a fan perspective, anything less than a championship is a disappointment because the clock is ticking on this team and they don't have much time. And so progress, I guess, whatever you could call this, progress, that's for teams who are rebuilding. That's for a team who hasn't been in the playoffs for 3 years. Oh, we got to the second round. Getting to the second round, if you're a Warriors fan, so what? You've had so much success, and as recently as 2022 had that championship, that anything less right now from this team, which employs number 30 still on it, is a disappointment. You can't help it. That's just the way it is. You have expectations that are sky high. And so if they don't reach them, it doesn't matter. Oh, they got better. Oh, that's cool. They got Jimmy, the next 2 years, whatever. The West is going to get better, not worse. And so is the East. Cleveland, I think, is going to add something to the things. It's not going to be easy to win a championship, and you're going in the wrong direction from an age standpoint. And so you've got to play the 82 because of finances, and the 16 is a sprint. It's really difficult, and teams are going to get better in the West. San Antonio is going to be better. Houston's going to be better. Dallas is going to be better. OKC's on the upswing. Minnesota's on the upswing. The way that they played. They're I told you this at the beginning of the series. They're a 16 sprint team, not an 82. Julius Randle was a mother in this series. So anyway, give me your thoughts on this. Here's Steve Kerr. And like I said, I just disagree with what Steve said here in terms of whether they would have won it with Steph or whether they would have been a championship team with Steph. Here's what Steve said about it post game.
I mean, I don't even have to think whatever. I know we had a shot. I know we could have gone the distance. Maybe we wouldn't have, but it doesn't matter. Again, everything in the playoffs is about who stays healthy and who gets hot. Are you playing well at the right time? Do you have multiple guys step up in key games, make shots? And do you have good health? And, you see it every year in every series. And so there's a little bit of luck involved, and we, like I said, we've been on both sides of that, and it's just part of it.
He said we would have had a shot. With their lack of size, no chance. There's just no chance. You look at teams, and it's almost like when you're dating someone, and it's not finding out. It is to a certain extent. It is finding out what you like, but more so it's finding out the flaws and the negatives. And it's like, can I live with this? No, I can't. Can I live with the snoring? Can I live with the snorting? Can I live with this? Can I live with that? Can I live with, that's what it comes down to. And you're eliminating things. And then when you find that person that doesn't annoy you so much, then you probably marry that person or have a long-term relationship with that person or whatever. But it is about finding those things. And the other team is trying to find your kryptonite. They're constantly poking. Well, for the Warriors, it was just lack of size. And Draymond Green ran out of gas, and it was older guys who ran out of gas. Jimmy ran out of gas. Draymond ran out of gas. Steph got hurt. This wasn't a championship team. Steve knows that. Again, he's saying nice things about his team because nowadays everything goes through the media, and all these guys are in their locker rooms staring at their phones. What is Steve going to say about us? Oh, Steve said we had a shot. And then next year it'll be like, okay, we're going to have a shot. But they're not up with, it's kind of like the Niners right now. We'll see. And we're going to get into the Niners schedule in just a second here after we finish up with the Warriors who lose last night and their season is over. But you say nice things to try to keep momentum going to the next season. But reality is they're not in the upper echelon of teams. He said, if you're in the final 8, you're a good team. You lost in the second round. You were a play-in team. And that was when that was on after February 6th where Jimmy Butler was hot. And the assumption would be well, we have Jimmy for the whole season. We're going to be really, really good. We'll see. We'll see. But that's not how it works. Momentum doesn't go season to season. You see how many players that what kind of moves you can make in the offseason. And I expect them, like I said, to be aggressive for size. And Steph Curry is going to be 38 and Draymond Green's a year older, 36, and so is Jimmy Butler. And so it's not conducive to going like this. It's conducive to going like this. I mean, that's what age does to everybody. So are they going to be as good? I don't think so, because there's an age thing. Now, who's going to get better, right? You look at the okay, who's going to get better on this team? Curry, Butler, Green, they're going to either stay the same or get a little bit worse. I mean, that's just, like I said, what happens with age. Who are your young players going to get better? Podziemski could, but I think he's a trade guy. Kuminga could, but he's played his last game as a Warrior. Moses Moody could, I guess, but you can see in the playoffs where his athleticism and lack of length is a major problem, especially against teams that are athletic like Houston and Minnesota, and Oklahoma City is as well, and all these other teams that are really good near the top. That's what they are. They're long and athletic. And Moses Moody is not that. So he's a young player who's probably not going to get all that much better in terms of the way he fits with the Warriors. So I don't mean to paint a bleak picture. They don't have a first-round pick. I think their first pick is like 41, something like that, in that range. It's in the 40s. I know that, their first pick. So what's that going to be like? Is Quentin Post going to be a guy that you can build around? Probably not. So, the young players, the guy with the biggest upside on your team, you're going to trade for size. Like I said, Jonathan Kuminga, whatever you think about it, he's going to get traded for size. So here's Steve Kerr talking about the season kind of in retrospect and the addition of Jimmy Butler.
Considering where we were at the trade deadline, Jimmy changed our season, flipped everything for us, gave us a chance. We became one of the best teams in the league. And obviously, you get to the final 8 in the NBA, you're one of the best teams. And we had a shot, but, things didn't go our way. But like I said, Minnesota deserves the credit. They were the better team.
With that said, how do you feel about the future? And I'm talking more just next season, with Jimmy now here and what you guys can maybe, build on. Yeah,
I'm excited. We got, obviously, Jimmy and Dre and Steph all coming back. Our young players performed really well this year. There's a lot to look forward to.
Again, I would question whether the young players performed very well. Moses Moody, when he got in the starting lineup, was solid. Podziemski was very hot and cold. He was great in April. He was bad in the playoffs outside of one game against Houston and one game against Minnesota. Jonathan Kuminga is getting traded. You're the ones who put him on the bench and couldn't find a way for a guy who can easily score 20 to 30 points a night. I expect Jonathan Kuminga to be on some team next year, probably not a very good one. If it's up to fans, he's going to be on Milwaukee, and he would be their number one scoring option, and he's going to score 25 a game. And that's just, he can score an easy 25. That game against Minnesota where he scored 30, you looked up and you're like, how did he get 30? That's just Kuminga. He's got that kind of talent. And I get it. He needs the ball in his hands and pound the rock in there, and it's not really conducive to what the Warriors are trying to do. And he does have some limitations, but he's a great athlete, and he'll probably be a guy that I think, I don't think he's going to the Hall of Fame, but I think he's going to be probably a multi-time all-star, and he'll have flaws in his game. There's no doubt about it, but he's fun to watch, and he's athletic, and he's long, and he's got to fill out a little bit more, and he's got to realize that there's a lot of aspects to the game that he doesn't effort as much as he does scoring. They reward scoring in this league, and so I get what he's doing and why he's doing it, but he's got to become a more well-rounded player, and I think with maturity and time and more time in the weight room and working out and seeing what his work ethic will be, he could be a really nice player, but it's not going to be here. Because where I disagree with Steve Kerr about the future and about the season and whether they had a chance to do special things, they just don't have enough size. They didn't. And Quentin Post was young and can shoot the basketball. And even though Looney's not old by any standards, he's just not what he once was. And Draymond Green has his limitations because of size and can't play the 5 and got burned out and tired at the end of the season. So lack of size is glaring for this team. And beyond Steph Curry's injury, even if Steph was here, that wouldn't have changed things from a size perspective. So they went about as far as they could go. I guess it's all about semantics in terms of if you're an Elite 8 team. If you're an Elite 8 team in the NCAA tournament and you got to the 8 out of the 64, yeah, that makes you one of the better teams. If you get to the second round in the playoffs and lose 4-1, I don't think that makes you one of the better teams in the league, but whatever. It's not that big of a deal to have that conversation. Here was the one that I was debating. My friends and I were texting back and forth last night during the game, and the guys in TNT talked about it last night, which is, would things have been different with Steph? Here are the guys on TNT discussing. It's a great debate. The one thing in the 12 minutes and 54 seconds that Steph played in this series, the one thing I would say to defend the point of they could have is Minnesota did not have a defender like the Rockets did. Amen Thompson played great, and they didn't have the type of players in Minnesota from that perspective. They did from a size perspective, athleticism, but Jaden McDaniels was all over Jimmy Butler. And one of the reasons why, and I say this all the time, sometimes you got to look at the other team rather than blame your team, whether it be a game or a series. Minnesota just had better players and better matchups all across the floor. We talk about matchups all the time in the playoffs. It was a bad matchup to take on Minnesota. But who would have taken on Steph? I mean, Anthony Edwards would have been part of it. Mike Conley would have been over there sometimes. And, Dante DiVincenzo. They didn't have an Amen Thompson with his length and athleticism. And at times, maybe Jaden McDaniels would have picked him up or whatever the case may be. But Steph was playing well in that first 12 minutes and 54 seconds. I don't know what would have happened. I'm sure Minnesota would have made some adjustments on him. But as we always find out, then it makes things for everybody easier for everybody else. And there were offensive droughts in this series that they wouldn't have had without Steph Curry. Now, having said that, my personal belief, it might have lengthened the series. It might have been 6 games, might have been 7 games. There were just too many matchup advantages for Minnesota all across the floor. So defensively, which they did not play well in this series, defensively, when Minnesota was getting pretty much whatever they wanted all over the floor, Steph wouldn't change that. He's a better defender than people give him credit for, and he's gotten stronger, he's gotten bigger, he's gotten better. Teams can target him like they used to do. They don't have as much success, but on the offensive end, it would have changed a lot, no question about it. I said this the other day when I was on ESPN radio. There's no one offensively that changes the game more than Steph does. Tilts the floor, draws attention, makes things easier for his teammates. There's nobody. I don't care who you want to mention. You can mention LeBron or Luka or Anthony Edwards or any great offensive player, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They don't change the floor. They don't change the game. They don't space the floor. They don't tilt the floor. They don't draw the attention that Steph Curry does. No one does. I don't care who it is, inside, outside, mid-range, whoever it is. They don't change it like Steph. So it changed the offense a great deal. And what it did is make Jimmy Butler into a Batman, which at this point of the season in his age, they couldn't. He couldn't. Buddy Hield for that second half of that game scored 22 of his 24 in the first game, and that's the only one they won. He couldn't maintain that. But Jemski had a great game when the pressure was off. Moses Moody had a fourth quarter when the pressure was off. And Jonathan Kuminga, they turn to him because they know that Jonathan Kuminga can dominate the basketball and he can score quite easily. But he doesn't fit within the flow when Steph is there for some reason, and we know why. But anyway, I don't think it would have changed the series. It would have lengthened the series. Would have been 4-1? No. Would it have been 4-2? Maybe. Would have been 4-3? Possibly. But I don't think it changes because, as I said, and where I disagree with Steve Kerr in this whole thing, is they just had a glaring weakness, a kryptonite of a lack of size. And that was going to rear its ugly head. It almost did against Houston. It certainly did against Minnesota. And Steph wouldn't have changed the fact that Julius Randle was dominating and Anthony Edwards was dominating, and they got wherever they wanted, whenever they wanted. They scored 72 points in the paint last night, 36 of 46. Steph wouldn't have changed that. 36 of 46 and 72 points in the paint. They just went down there anytime they wanted. Nothing they could do about it. Steph wouldn't have changed that. So lengthen the series. I don't think they would have won the series. And I think that the Warriors took this thing as far as they possibly could. And as I say, for next season, as excited as people want to be, unfortunately, they're another year older and the Western Conference is another year better. And I think Dallas winning the lottery is bad news for Golden State. I think San Antonio getting the second pick is bad news because now they have so much ammunition to go out and either get a Durant or a Giannis. And as far as going out and getting the size, unfortunately, the Warriors do not have the what's the correct word that I'm looking for here? Just the reputation that they once had, because when Steph and Draymond and Clay and when they were in their prime, everybody wanted to come and play for the Warriors, but now they see that it's one last stand. And like I said, if I'm Miles Turner and he's still only like 27, 28 years old, he would be the ultimate target. They're not getting Giannis. They're not getting Durant. Those high-end guys are going to go somewhere else because they just don't have the ammunition to get those guys. But Miles Turner would have to say to the Pacers, who are in their second consecutive Eastern Conference final, that, you know what, I just don't want to be here anymore. Even though you can pay me the most money, you have my, the bird rights on it. You can pay me the most money, and I'll tell you what, I don't want to be here anymore. But I do want to go to Golden State, where they're an aging team in the tougher conference. Huh? It just doesn't seem to make sense to me. Unless, like I said, you really want to play for Steph. Maybe Giannis does. Maybe Miles Turner does. I don't know those guys, but on the surface, it just doesn't make logical sense. So if I had to guess right now, and this is just, it's a educated guess, but who knows? They'll probably end up with somebody like Bobby Portis or somebody like that. I mean, again, why would Naz Reid, if Minnesota is going to give him a contract and they give him the most years and the most money, why would Naz Reid leave Minnesota? Maybe he'll leave for a lesser team, a worse team. Maybe there'll be a Charlotte or somebody, or I don't even know how his cap space at this point. I haven't delved into that. But maybe there's somebody who's going to just give a silly contract to Naz Reid. They could. Maybe someone will give a silly contract to Miles Turner. They could. But it's not going to be the Warriors because they just don't have that kind of money. So that player is going to have to say, I want to play for Steph, with Steph Curry for a couple of years, and then I want to be the face of the Warriors franchise moving forward. Somebody has to want to do that. Like the Lakers with getting the deal done with Doncic. Like somehow they just said, I want to be, on the Warriors. And when those guys leave, that's fine. I'll be the face of the franchise after that. And it's got to be somebody with size because that's what they lack. So anyway, there you go. That is the Warriors side of things. They lose last night. They are out. It's Cancun time. It's golf club time. What do you think? Before I get to the schedule with the 49ers, and again, I'm going to jump out of here in about 30 minutes. Got some things we got to do, sales and so forth calls. Oh, man, I forgot about Anthony Melton. Where'd they trade? They traded him, right? Was he part of that deal? I can't even remember. Let's see. I'm getting no accolades for coming in early today. What's going on with that? Nothing. I'm just kidding. I'm late all the time. So, no, I don't disagree with that. I mean, if Ant-Man, you lose your best player, obviously it's going to be a problem, but I just believe that from a size standpoint, they had a kryptonite. They had a massive kryptonite. And not only, throw Curry out of it for just a second, the size was a problem. Draymond Green was gassed. They weren't going to get any help. 72 points in the paint at 36 out of 46. 72 points. And they just went wherever they wanted, whenever they wanted. That's a good point on Wiseman, man. I mean, they tried. Yeah, Wiseman. I mean, that pick is going to haunt them forever because not only were they one pick away from Ant-Man, as much as you may not like LaMelo Ball, he could have taken Steph off the ball. He's 6'7". I mean, I think he would have been a different player. He wouldn't be jacking the ball up like he is in Charlotte because they got nothing. I think he would have been a little bit more of a disciplined player, and he could have helped this franchise at the very least, but just nothing out of Wiseman. Thank you, Papa J. Please like and subscribe on John Lund Unleashed on the YouTube channel, please, and on the Bay Area Sports Collective. Thank you for that. Let's see. Taylor, good morning to you. There's more people. Did I say good morning to Jake? I don't know if I did. Kyle, hello. Good to see you. All right, there's the thoughts on the Warriors. We'll talk about the Warriors a lot in the offseason. We got a long way to go. A little bit of talk about them today and their future, but believe me, we'll do shows on the Warriors and we'll get more specific, and I'll write things on the blog at johnlundunleashed.com, which, by the way, we have archives of shows, podcasts, all those different things, merchandise, social media, and the blog. And I have not written the offseason blog. I actually titled it and started writing it last night. Haven't finished it, but I'll have it up later today, a more extensive discussion about the Warriors in the offseason. All right. So I did this yesterday. We did a short show. Let's flip over to the 49ers where we are on the chalkboard right now. So episode 141, Warriors out, offseason moves, JK gone. That's going to be for size. 49ers schedule. All right. So I did a short show right after 5 Pacific yesterday. Please have your alerts on and you would know. And I sent this tweet out right at 5 o'clock as the 49ers send that over. So there's your schedule. At Seahawks, I'll unveil my picks in just a second. So at the Seahawks, I've never seen a schedule in which you played the team for week 1 and week 18. That's wild to me, and how vastly the teams are going to change and injuries and all those kind of things. But Seahawks, and I'll get more into detail in just a second on these. At the Seahawks, at the Saints, Cardinals, Jags. It's the easiest schedule in the league by a mile. And so I'm going to give you those numbers in a second before I unveil my stuff. Plus, we're going to talk about Monday and Sunday night. Thursday night's kind of a joke, but Sunday and Monday night we'll get into. But there you go. The tough stretch, quote unquote, the tough stretch will start with week 5 at the Rams. Then you got to go all the way across the country against the Bucs. Then the Falcons, who I think are a bit underrated. It's going to depend on what Michael Penix does, their quarterback. But I'll get into that in a minute. Then it's DeMeco Ryans and the Texans. And then as bad as I think the Giants are still going to be, and at that point, maybe it's Jackson Dart, maybe it's Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited, you still have to go to New York, which is a long trip. And then you get the Rams and the Cardinals, which are in division games. So the key stretch is 5 to 11. I think it's pretty obvious there. You play the Rams twice in that time. You play the Cardinals in that time. You take 2 long road trips, Bucs and Giants, and plus you go into deep into the heart of Texas. and you play a Sunday nighter against what I think could be in the Falcons, a team that could win that division. You know, the Bucs are there, obviously, in New Orleans, but I think New Orleans and Carolina are at the bottom, so it's going to come down to the Falcons and the Buccaneers. So clearly the tough stretch, if there is one, is 5 through 11. But if you really look at this thing, the Rams are the only team, unfortunately for you season ticket holders, that made the playoffs last year, and they just have one of the, some of the easiest stretches in the league, and their schedule is the easiest. In fact, let me show you real quick here. Let me share my screen with you and show you just how easy the schedule is. Let's see here. Where's that ESPN thing? That's the. Let me see here. Sunday night schedule, Monday night schedule. Is this the one? I think. Hopefully this is the right one. No. Yeah, right there. This is a graphic from NFL.com. Let me change something here. Hold on just a second. I don't like when I'm off the screen. I like when I'm talking to you. There we go. See, there's me. There's you. All right. So let's look at this graphic here. You can see, as it says there, 49ers strength of schedule, 4-15, 32nd. You can see right there, 5 primetime games. The most is Kansas City, by the way, with 7. So they've got the easiest schedule in the league, 32nd. Now, does that mean it's going to be the easiest this year? We'll see. I think Nick Wagner from ESPN, who does a great job covering the 49ers, put out a graphic of teams that had the easiest schedule, and it doesn't always work out that way. But for as much negative things that we've talked about with the 49ers, that schedule sure seems to be kind of a great equalizer. So the easiest schedule in all of the NFL is the 49ers. Let me just pop that up one more time. And let me just pop there you go. I like that better. So there you go. Easiest schedule, not a lot of challenges. Obviously, you got to go on the road certain times, but when you go look at the season kicker, which again, say all you want about Kyle Shanahan, he's great in December. So December is Titans home, Colts home, Bears home. I mean, Seahawks home. Your last 4 games are home, and it gets the team that had the number 1 pick in the Titans, the Colts, who have an uncertain quarterback situation, the Bears, who until further notice, I know what they did with their offensive line, but until further notice, they're still the Bears. And then the Seahawks, who you're going to find out in a minute, I think they're better than what people are saying. So just saying. And then but one more thing before I unveil everything. Let me throw this at you, too, as I share my screen with you. And I was shocked by this. Really surprised by this. Vegas over-unders on team totals. Let's see, right there. Yeah, I got it. There's your totals. This is what Vegas is saying. Go to the 49ers right there. I'm shocked by that. Look at that, 10.5. Vegas has the Niners at 10.5, and that's largely, obviously, not largely, it is all because their schedule is so easy. I was shocked. I saw a couple of weeks ago their number was at like 8.5, and I had a bet over on the 8.5, but 10.5, and you'll find out in a minute where I am on all this stuff, but that's a high number for the kind of offseason that they've had. So you look at some of this stuff, Bills 11.5, these are the higher teams. There's only, like I said, the highest number is 11.5. They got the Niners at 10.5. That tells you what they think of the schedule. But Eagles, Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, those 4 teams are at 11.5. And then look at that next group. Lions are a good football team, 10.5. Niners, 10.5. So 2 teams at 10.5. Again, the Lions have a first place schedule. So that's what's, they're a better team, but they have a tougher schedule, especially being in that division. Packers are in that division. Vikings had a great year last year. That's going to come down to J.J. McCarthy. The Rams. So basically what Vegas is telling you at this particular point is the Niners win the division. Rams, they have at 9.5. Commandos at 9.5. I have a feeling that they might crash and burn. I'd go under that number. Broncos, they feel pretty good about. Packers at 9.5. Again, that's a tough division. Buccaneers, you got to make that long trek to Tampa this year. They've got them at 9.5. Another team that you're playing right there. Bears at 8.5. I'd probably go under that number. Interesting. Cardinals, I think they have them a little bit highly overrated at 8.5. Minnesota without Darnold, going with the rookie, they got it 8.5. Seattle, I think they're going to play over that number, 8.5. Cowboys, interesting at 7.5. Patriots, I think, way overrated at that number. I'm not thinking that they're going to win that. 7.5, 6.5. They go to the Raiders. If you're a Raiders fan, if JJ Raiders in the house today, there you go. And then the bottom of the barrel, they go to play. Look, they've got them at 5.5. You're going to hate me when it comes to the Browns game. So, but see, this is where where Vegas has, look at Browns on the Niners schedule, Giants on the Niners schedule, Titans on the Niners schedule, Panthers on the Niners schedule, Saints on the Niners schedule, Colts on the Niners schedule, Jags, Falcons. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 10 teams with the lowest win totals of the year. How many did the Niners play? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They play 8 of the bottom 10 teams in the league, according to Vegas. So if you don't think their schedule is easy, that just kind of tells you that. But 10.5, and again, before I unveil everything, and if you were with me on the show yesterday, you already know where I have it. But so that I'm not the only one being made fun of before I unveil this morning, you tell me. Where do you have the Niners? Where do you have the Niners in terms of wins? You just saw that Vegas has them at 10.5. It might be a little bit high, but we just saw the schedule, and I just explained to you why they have them where they have them, because Vegas is saying 10.5, and they're not saying it because they had this amazing offseason. They're saying it because the schedule is that easy, and I just showed you 8 of the bottom 10 teams from a win total perspective, the Niners play. And even if they have to go to Tampa, they have to go to the Giants. Those are long trips. But guys in the NFL, it's not like, like we saw the Pac-12 teams in college football last year go into the Big Ten, and they're like, we have to go to Penn State or Michigan or some of these teams. They struggle with it. All right, so let's do this. Wins and losses, L's and W's. You can see green W's and L's for the red. And I know you're going to go like, what are the what? 3 preseason games against the AFC West in the Broncos, Raiders, and Chargers. Even though it's a preseason game, I've been to Allegiant Stadium 4 times, once for the Super Bowl, once for a regular season game, Raiders, Niners, and once for a preseason game. And then I saw a game there, just a Raiders game in there, a random one. So I've been there 4 times. You should go. It's fun. It's still hot as hell that time of year, but if you stay like, I know it's not the greatest, but like Mandalay Bay or something, you can actually walk to the stadium. I would highly recommend. It's fun. All right, road games are in gold, red. There you can see are the home games. So that third one against Arizona is a home game. So at Seattle, I put loss. Vegas has them at 7.5. I think Seattle is going to be really good. Not so much because of Darnold, but they've fortified their offensive line, and I think that Mike McDonald's getting it defensively. This kid they took out of South Carolina, the safety, I think is going to be really good in their defense. I could be wrong, but I've got at Seattle as a loss. New Orleans, they've got a very uncertain quarterback situation. They took a rookie, and then behind that, they have Jake Haener, Danville's own, and Spencer Rattler. That's a complete mess, and the fact that you're playing them in week 2 is an advantage. That's a win. Cardinals at home, they're always a pain in the ass, but I still think Jonathan Gannon's still building that team, so 2-1. Jacksonville, please. I don't care if Liam Cohen's there. I'm just not a Trevor Lawrence guy. I thought he'd be a lot better by now, so now you're off to a 3-1 start, and you're going, woo, things are good. Then you got to go to the Rams. That's going to be a difficult game. The Rams have a really good defense, nice young team. McVay will always have the offense humming to a certain extent. Devontae Adams joins Matthew Stafford early in the season so that they don't have some injuries. 3-2. I think going to Tampa, that's going to be a tough task, and that's an underrated football team. Baker Mayfield's solid, good defense, so they're 3-3 at that point. They come home for a national game against the Falcons. Falcons drafted 2 guys in the first round. They gave up next year's first-round pick. I really like Jalen Walker, the guy that they got out of Georgia in the first round, and then they take James Pierce, the edge, out of Tennessee. I think they'll be better. A lot of it depends on Michael Penix. I don't know how good he's going to be. Loved him in college, but not sure yet. And it's early enough in the season, so maybe they haven't gelled quite yet offensively. So 4-3 at that point. Go see DeMeco Ryans in Texas. I think that is too much. So I got that as an L. I think they beat New York. New York at that point, probably starting Jackson Dart, the rookie at Ole Miss. Russell Wilson is probably on the bench at that point. Split with the Rams as you get the Rams at home. They're always tough, but they had opportunities to win that game last year. You remember the Debo drop. Cardinals, again, going to the desert is never fun. Bryce Young, they pick up the rookie from Arizona, the wide receiver McMillan. They're still a mess, especially defensively. They're not losing that. Now, here's where you could take exception with me against the Browns. We just saw that Vegas has them at 5.5 wins as the lowest number, tied for the lowest number in the NFL. I don't know. This one feels like to me, and maybe that's just because I got the taste in my mouth from 2 years ago when Cleveland dominated. Remember, Debo was talking trash before that game, and then he gets hurt on like the first play of the game on like an end around. and they lose that game, and defensively, Jim Schwartz just, I don't know, he seems to kind of have the Niners number. That makes no sense, picking Cleveland over the Niners. But I don't know, they just have one of those games every single year, one or two of those games where you just go, how the hell did they lose that game? And so that's my logic behind it. It's not really good logic, and maybe I'm wrong in that one, but I don't know. It just feels like one of those weird games they lose and you just can't explain it. Bye week, which that is so wild. That is so late in the year like that. You'd rather have it, if you had your druthers, you'd probably rather have it like after Texans or something like that. Like, what are you, 8 games in, midway point, but really late. And they could be banged up by that point of the season. But then you hit December, and this is Kyle Shanahan's hot spot. Cam Ward, I'd rather play early in the season as the number 1 pick. He's going to make mistakes. I'll be honest with you. I could be wrong here. I'm just not a huge Cam Ward guy. Had a great year at Miami. Played at Washington State for a couple of years. I think he was barely draftable, even though he was a good player. He wasn't a great player. All of a sudden plays at Miami in a high-profile program, and he's the number 1 pick. I don't see it. I don't mind him, but I still think Tennessee is going to take a minute. So they win that game, and it's Kyle's December. The Colts could have Daniel Jones starting at that point. I think Anthony Richardson will have worn out his welcome. So I think they're going to beat a Daniel Jones at home. The Bears, to me, they did a nice job fortifying the interior of their offensive line. They've got a lot of talent. Caleb Williams is an incredibly talented kid. He hasn't obviously reached it, but he was getting beat up. And so the Bears said, okay, we're going to bring in offensive lineman. Ben Johnson is their head coach, comes over from the Lions. We'll see what kind of a genius he is. He's seen that way. But until further notice, the Bears are the Bears. Now, that could change by December 28th, clearly, but the Bears are the Bears. And then this is another one along with Cleveland that you could take exception with me, and I totally get it. That's a home game against Seattle. And for some reason, I think Seattle's going to be a 10 or 11 win team. I just think Mike McDonald is that good. Now, what's interesting about them is they lose DK Metcalf. They lose Tyler Lockett. They lose a lot of guys, but they fortified their offensive line. I think they're going to run the ball a lot more. They had Ryan Grubb, who was a college offensive coordinator. They bring in, you got Clay and you got Clint Kubiak. So you got Clint Kubiak as their offensive coordinator. They actually drafted a kid from Alabama to play fullback. So they're going to try to mimic the 49ers in terms of what they do. Kenneth Walker. They won't have the receivers they've had. Remember, they added Cooper Kupp. I think the thing about them is I think they're going to be really good defensively. I could be 100% wrong, but Mike McDonald's pretty smart. I said the safety out of South Carolina that I really, really like, they got in the second round and traded up for. I just think this is a good young defense, and they're going to be pretty good defensively. So that's probably wrong, but I have it right where Vegas is, 10-7, 10.5. Vegas says is the Niners over-under, which is amazing. But again, it's not so much related to their team as much as it is the schedule. I believe the 49ers are going to score points. I'm questioning. The defense scares me. It comes down to, CJ West inside and Alfred Collins inside, the rookie from Texas. What are they going to do about the secondary? Can Nick Martin? I mean, they need so many rookies to step up, especially defensively. Mikael Williams, that whole defensive line, 3 of those guys on the defensive line are rookies. Nick Martin on the second level. And then the secondary, especially losing Mustafa, that's just not good. I'm not a Jared Brown guy, as you know. I think the corners will be fine. I do think Renardo Green takes a step up with Demo Lenore, but those safeties scare the hell out of me. So I like having Robert Saleh around, and that's great, and that's good, and that's dandy, and all those kind of things. But he can only do so much with the talent. So the defense scares me for the 49ers. They will score enough points. Can the defense be better? The special teams has got to be better. I like Brant Boyer. He seems like a special teams coach. He sounds like a special teams coach. He looks like a special teams coach. Is Jake Moody going to cost him games again? I don't think they'll make the boneheaded mistakes that they did when Brian Schneider was the special teams coordinator. And I get it that it's not all his fault, but they just had so many mistakes that they made last year, and they can't be that bad again. So I'll take that off the screen now, and you can make fun of me. But the only thing I ask is, okay, smarty pants, what do you got? How many wins do you have? What do you think? How is it going to work out? I got 10-7. You can question me on that Seahawks loss at the end, no doubt. You can question me on the Bears loss, no doubt. But then on the flip side of things, I gave them the benefit of the doubt against the Bears. I did have them going across the country against the Bucs, a solid team, and losing that game. That's a long road trip. They could definitely win that. But I think they're going to be in the range of what Vegas says. And I didn't even look at the Vegas number before I did it. I never put a ton of thought into it. I just look at a schedule and I just put win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. And there's always that weird loss that they have. And they'll win a game they're not supposed to win, that kind of stuff. And then the difficult thing about playing the fun win-loss game that we do every single year when the schedule comes out, win-loss, 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 is we don't know injuries. I mean, if you'd have said Steph Curry gets hurt before the Minnesota series, what if Steph plays the Minnesota series? Like, we know injuries are everything. Last year they had horrendous luck. And by the way, one thing I should say as a caveat, I should have said it before I showed you the win-loss game, is that I'm assuming average health. Average health. And last year, the football gods just threw a bunch of lightning bolts at the 49ers from weirdness at the beginning, from Brandon Ayuk to Trent Williams, hold out, hold in, hold out, however you want to do it. And just, Christian McCaffrey gets hurt, all these different things, which made it so that Brock Purdy tried to do too much. And now people are down on Brock Purdy and blah, 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 blah. So with all the different things that happened in the injuries and so forth, if they have another season like that, a lightning bolt injury season like that, yeah, they're not going to win 10 games. But I'm saying average health. I'm saying McCaffrey comes back. Ayuk's back at the middle of the season. Obviously, Brock doesn't get hurt because I don't want to see Mac Jones, all those kind of things. By the way, there's going to be a Mac Jones story because he can talk the talk. He just can't walk the walk, that people are going to say, oh, my God, this guy. At some point in the middle of the season, if Brock isn't as good as he's supposed to be, and the contract's getting done, don't worry about it. But, I'm speaking general health. And the thing that's scary about it is, and I'm talking especially defensively and really on the offensive and defensive lines, if they have any injuries, and you always do, it just depends on who and when. Like if Nick goes down, look at that defensive line for any period of time. If Fred Warner goes down, that defense for any length of time. If one of the corners goes down, if Demo Lenore goes down for any length of time, that's a scary-ass young secondary. I don't know what the hell they're going to do. Mustafa's going to be back at what, midway point of the season, maybe? I mean, they are painfully thin, especially on the defensive side. They are painfully thin along the offensive line. Like Trent Williams is getting older. Trent's awesome, but the reality is if Trent gets hurt, they had Jalen Moore last year as a guy who gave him some depth. I mean, who's your left tackle? Spencer Burford. You're going to move McKivitz over there and put, who you putting on the right side. They didn't get to the offensive line. And I know they've brought in a couple of veterans, but it's, you complain about Brock Purdy all you want, but when he's getting constant pressure and when the center's on his ass and when, they just don't have any depth along the offensive line, any depth. And so somebody gets hurt on the offensive line, somebody gets hurt on the defensive line. I know that's a lot for a lot of teams. It's like that, but they are painfully thin defensively and on both sides of the ball on the lines in the trenches. And they can't afford anything like that. So yeah, that can be the great equalizer to whether they stay healthy or don't in terms of winning anywhere from 6 to 10 games. They can be a 6-11 team again. There's no doubt especially if the injury bug hits, but Vegas has them at 10.5. So give me your thoughts on what you think as far as the 49ers. I have them at 10. Let me go through this with you. Am I blurry on anybody else? Am I blurry? I would hope that. Am I blurry on the screen? Let me see here. Hold on a minute. Let me. Since you said I'm blurry, let me see if I am blurry at my house. I am getting a low signal on the screen, which I shouldn't because I am hardlined into this whole thing. So I should not have a problem as far as looking the way I look. But let me just see here. Sorry, I don't need to be doing this. Are you really running an ad on my very own channel? You're gonna watch this stuff? Hang on a second. It's making me watch an ad. Are you kidding me? Seriously? Watch my own show? Can I please skip? Yes, I can. Boy, that's annoying. Who knew that was happening? All right, let me see here. Play. Yeah, it is a little bit blurry, I guess. Sorry about that. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm getting a good signal here, but I am getting a low signal on my screen, so that is a bit weird. Let's see. Yeah, it's going now. Okay, we should be fine now. All right, let me just do this one more time. All right, we should be good to go. All right, a couple other things before we get out of here, because like I said, I got to jump at the top of the hour. We have places to go, people to see today, so we had to do it short. But we'll do a long show tomorrow. Plus, we will make sure that we do the bottom of the pint. Maybe the hat is making me blurry. We'll do the bottom of the pint tomorrow. So Vegas says we got to that point. HICKS to the pen. Do I really need to say this again? I'll pop this up just for the heck of it. On tomorrow's show, we'll go through Sunday and Monday Night Football. I won't have time to do it today, but I'll definitely do it tomorrow. We'll go through Sunday and Monday Night Football tomorrow. Let's elongate this process just like the NFL does. Let me throw the box score up here. Where is it? Oh, right there. I really don't need to do this, but I will nonetheless. So there's Jordan Hicks, 1-5 with a 655. Those are the traditional stats that you always see, but 5 earned runs. He did pitch into the third inning, but did not get an out. My friend Hayden Birdsong, who I want to throw into the rotation, was not great yesterday. I'll give you that. Not a huge Bivens guy. And Ryan Walker has mental issues going on right now, which I can understand. Then they lose 8-7, and they lose another series. So I'm not panicking, and they're off to a nice start. No big deal. They're fine. The A's come in. That's going to be a good series and fun series. I'm going to go down to that over the weekend. But what else do we have to see from Jordan Hicks? I don't want to talk about this all the time, constantly, and be a broken record. But I mean, how much longer we got to watch this? You don't have time. You know, you're dealing with these other teams in the wild card race. The Dodgers are going to run away with this thing. We know that. So then you're going to keep Hicks in the rotation because the offense, you know, they scored yesterday, and there's no doubt about it. Is it my hat? Yeah, that's probably making it blurry. I won't wear this hat again. But in terms of Jordan Hicks, I mean, how much longer do we got to see this? You have options. Kyle Harrison's an option. Birdsong's an option. I want to see Birdsong as a starter. Now, he's never been a long reliever like this. So I'm not saying that he shouldn't be effective, and he's been largely effective. His ERA is still, 2.31, something like that. But I'd like to see him as a starter. Let him start a game. I know he's had a couple of rough outings out of the last few, but I still think that dude's a starter. He's got the mentality for it. He's, it's very frustrating to watch Jordan Hicks go out there, given the fact that not only is it not Jordan Hicks is frustrating as a starter, but Jordan Hicks could be in the bullpen throwing 102 miles per hour. There's a better role for him. And what great teams do in sports is they find a role for someone and they maximize that player in that role. So one player, you see teams all the time, especially bad teams, they'll put players in situations that don't fit or aren't the best for their fit. And then they go to another team, and then the team does put them in that right situation. And then somebody goes, oh, that's what they should have been doing. That's what bad teams do. They don't maximize players in their right situation. And that's what the Giants are doing with Jordan Hicks. He's not a starter. He could be a really high-end, high-leverage reliever. Might as well just put him there. And Birdsong's a starter. Birdsong's a starter. Hicks is a reliever. Hicks could be throwing 102 out of the pen, and add him to Randy Rodriguez and all the different guys you have in the pen. And you know what you also can do? You can trade somebody now out of the pen, and you can try to get a quality first baseman, not the shit that you have going on right now. Like the organization right now, all due respect to Buster Posey, and it's early in the season, so it's tough to trade. I understand that. You have an excess of relievers. If you reestablish Jordan Hicks in the bullpen, now all of a sudden you have an excess of relievers. Everybody loves relievers. And you throw a young player and a reliever, and all of a sudden you got a first baseman because that situation's a complete joke. So you're not maximizing Jordan Hicks. You're not maximizing Hayden Birdsong. You're not maximizing Kyle Harrison. Like, there's guys there, and there's guys in the minors having great years. You don't have to do this. You're not short of pitching. You don't have all day. And tomorrow we'll do this on a Friday edition. We're past the 40-game mark, so that's the quarter pole. It's not early anymore. It's not early. Start making moves. Quit running guys out there that aren't productive. Stop with Lamont Wade Jr. You're a quarter of the way in the season. He's batting $150. Stop it. Jordan Hicks is not being maximized in his role. Stop it. Nor is Birdsong. Nor is Harrison. Let's go. You're in a wild card race. You're going up against a bunch of teams. You know, the Dodgers are going to be way too far in the distance, but you're dealing with the Phillies as good as now what the Mets are. They're legit. So now the Phillies and the Braves out of the East are going to be tough. And you're dealing with, I don't know what the Cubs are going to be, but there's going to be teams out of the Central that are going to make a run at this thing. The Cardinals are right there right now. But you're dealing with the Padres, and we just saw from the Diamondbacks. You don't have time to sit around. If you do become a wild card, it's going to be because of 1 or 2 or 3 games. And that means you got to make moves now. I know that the teams don't want to trade right now. I get it. But you're not maximizing your roster. Jordan Hicks is not a starter. How many times do we have to do that? I'm sorry, I don't mean to get angry about it, but it's like I've been saying this since the offseason. He showed you he's a 5-and-fly guy who's going to get tired. It wasn't a good signing in that way. You gave him 4 and 44. I said it from the minute he was signed. The next day, I didn't like the signing. This isn't new. But, look, you can salvage this by putting him into the pen, and he can throw 102 miles per hour and blow people. He can blow the doors off. He can be great. He can be really good in that role, and then you can trade somebody out of the pen because you have an excess of pitching, which nobody has. You got a great bullpen. So trade somebody. You've got a big-time need at first base. That's what trades are about. Stop. Like, stop doing this. He's got a 655 and we're at the quarter pole. I know that's not everything when it comes to analytics, but I can watch the damn game. A thing that I'm fond of saying, as you well know. I'm fond of saying, watch the damn game. And he's not effective. And the thing that's more frustrating is he's more effective as a reliever. We've all seen it. We've seen him come out of the pen gassing 102. But let's keep putting him in the starting rotation. I get it, Bob. You're smart. You know a lot more about baseball than I do. There's analytics and things like that, and you trust veterans and blah, blah, blah. He's better as a reliever. It's obvious. Put someone else in that position, and somebody popped up 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫 right there. 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫's having a great year. 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫, Harrison, Birdsong, all those guys are better options. What are you doing? And he's a better reliever. You're not maximizing your roster. And at some point, you're going to put him back in the pen. He's going to be great. Then move him. And then you open up that money. 4 and 44. He's in year 2 of that. You got to move him. Or you got to move somebody else out of the bullpen that, so that you can get, you're just glaring at first base. I know it's early. Just somebody with some sort of potential. You don't even have to make the big trade at first base. The thing that you do when you have issues on your roster is you find out, okay, this guy's having issues this year. Do we have anything internally? No, you don't. Wilmer Flores is a short fix, and then you can use somebody else at DH. David VR is not that guy. Bryce Eldridge isn't ready. Like, you look at your internal options first, and then you go out. Well, even though it's the middle of May and the trade deadline is not for a couple more months, I get it. But it can be done, and you may have to overpay to do it, but you don't have time to wait. Like, we're not early anymore. We're at the quarter pole. We're past it. You played 40-plus games. We'll get more into that and grade the Giants tomorrow, as well as do the rest of the schedule tomorrow. But it's not early anymore, guys. The Dodgers are already out of the picture, so now you're dealing with the Padres and the Phillies and the Cardinals and the Braves. And, there's a number of teams you're going to have to deal with. And it's going to come down to 1 or 2 or 3 games. Mark my words, at the end of the season, it's going to come down to a few games. And so what are you going to do? Run Jordan Hicks out there again and lose another game and put your team behind the 8 ball? He gave up 5 earned runs in 2+ innings. That's no. Like, how much longer do you need? He's gotten plenty of run. All these guys have. It's time to make moves. It's time that we don't have to watch Lamont Wade Jr. have shitty at bat after shitty at bat in the box. It's ridiculous. It's professional baseball. It's not Little League. Nice try, Jimmy. You'll get him next time. Trying to win. You're off to a really good start. Take advantage of it. No more. Okay, rant done. All right, there you go. That'll do it for today. I got some things I got to do from a business perspective on the show today, so I've got to leave you early. But here's the deal. If anything happens throughout the day, remember, you can hit us up at John Lund Radio on Instagram and X. As people are watching, please leave comments under the show today. I'd love to hear you in the comments or see you in the comments. I said the Niners would win 10 games. You probably don't like how I kind of broke it down in the schedule, so give me your thoughts. How many games will they win and why? I'll use your comments on the show. Please hit me up there. Also, as I said, at John Lund Radio on X, watching today on Facebook, LinkedIn, the Bay Area Sports Collective, and Twitch. Thanks for making the time on any of those platforms. If you'd love to come over, we'd love to have you in the chat room. Bunch of great people in chat as always. Please hit us up and subscribe, hit the like button, and have those alerts on at John Lund Radio on YouTube, as well as the Bay Area Sports Collective. Everybody have a great day. I'll talk to you very, very soon. If anything breaks, remember to have those alerts on at John Lund Radio on YouTube, and we'll jump back on and discuss. Either way, I'll be back at 8 a.m. tomorrow. We'll finish up the schedule game. We'll look at Sunday and Monday Night Football, more on the Niners and what Vegas is saying. Plus, we'll get into more of the Warriors and the Giants at the quarter point of the season. We're 40-plus games into the season, so we'll give out grades, those kind of things, and we will do that on a Friday edition of the program, which is always a lot of fun. And then Larry Krueger and I tomorrow night will do Bottom of the Pint. All that to come. Have a great rest of your Thursday.
Thanks for hanging out with John Lund Unleashed. We'll try to be better next time, though I wouldn't hold my breath. Please like and subscribe on the John Lund Unleashed Pod YouTube channel. Watch live shows weekdays at 8 a.m. on YouTube, Instagram, and X. And make sure to have your alerts on for shows throughout the day or night. All things Lund can be found at johnlundunleashed.com. johnlundunleashed.com.
Goodbye!